Welcome to my favorite part, brainstorming and content mapping. This is the piece that I think is the most useful, because what you're doing is you're getting everybody into a room, everybody who has an opinion, which is everybody, let's be honest, about what your company does and whatnot. You get them all into a room or a virtual room and you ask questions, you hit record, you assign a scribe, and you take notes. And what you'll find is that you are going to come up with so many great ideas. Just having the time set aside, and you don't need more than an hour. Just setting that time aside for brainstorming is a really good way to sort of shake loose the general stuck attitude of like, what on earth do we talk about? And to get people thinking about content all the time. What I have found is that these strategy sessions that we hold for people are so useful, and I would be really surprised if the results of the brainstorming session matched what the person ended up talking about, even like 50%, I'd be surprised by. But I'm really excited about this, and I want to give you some ideas. So I have a post that you don't have to go look for called the One Question Marketing Plan. And so if you were to only ask this one question, especially if you got a bunch of people in the room together, you could spend the next few months creating content just around the answers to this and have a really, really strong start. And the question is, what makes you mad? Not getting cut off in traffic, not when your kid makes you late for school or whatever, but in your industry. What are other people in your industry doing or saying or believing that is completely the opposite of how you would react to it? Or what are the gurus doing that is just wrong? What are the bad actors? And there's a bad actor in every industry. What are those people doing that just really boils your blood? When you send emails, maybe you subscribe, maybe you hate subscribe to some of these people, and you forward their emails along to people in your office with the subject, "Can you believe this?" That is where we want to channel that energy. Think about all of the things that are done in your industry that aren't above board. Call them out, not by name, but if you think about it, when you're talking about the other people in your industry that are doing something wrong, you don't have to explicitly say, "And we would never do that." Because of course you wouldn't. That's implied. But what you can say is like, look, we really don't want you to work with the untrustworthy people. Here's what to look for when you're thinking about hiring a XYZ, whatever it is. That is a really good place to start. It's not usually where I start in our strategy sessions because sometimes it gets people too fired up. So what I start with is a question about thinking about the last really awesome sales conversation you had. What were the questions that someone asked you that when you answered them, you thought to yourself, "Ooh, nailed it." You know what I'm talking about. What are some questions that you wish people were asking you? What are the things that you believe? What are the steps that someone should take in order to work with you? Now, again, these are some overarching ideas. There's a lot to be said for not having content about here's how 6 ways to work with me. Like nobody cares about that. But when you're brainstorming, it's all fair game. One of the things we also do is competitor research, where we take your competition and we see what they're ranking for. And very often your competition is ranking for something that's not very hard to rank for. They just happen to have one piece of content around it and you don't. That's a really good place to start. Again, we're not ever going to plagiarize. But if they're talking about a keyword, then you can also be talking about a keyword. And when I say keyword, I mean, what are the search terms that you would want someone to type in and land on your answer? That's the kind of content you want to start building and keep building. What is your unique selling point? What is your stake in the ground? A lot of that comes up with what makes you mad, but it's good to ask another way. Again, you're going to have a scribe. You're going to have somebody dedicated to taking notes. That's usually not me. I don't think and write at the same time. So you want to make sure the person facilitating the brainstorming is not the person writing stuff down. Another good question to ask is, what are the problems that you solve? What are some of the problems that your buyer is having that's really upsetting them, that's keeping them up at night, that if only they knew about your solution, they could be transformed? What is your transformation process? If you start there, I promise you, those questions, if you leave enough time to answer them, will fill a full hour and give you months and months and months of content ideas.